At a small but highly secure detention centre on the island of Mayotte, a French military truck delivers its pitiful human cargo.
Seeing all those women, children and husbands locked in trucks, I was very shocked. I thought it was like a medieval age.
These poor, undocumented migrants come from the neighbouring Comoros Islands. They're known locally as clandestines or illegals, and their plight is an ugly secret that the government in Paris would rather keep hidden.
They don't understand. They cannot understand. Even in the French newspaper, French TV or whatever, Mayotte doesn't exist.
It's a long way from Europe, but after a century and a half as a French colony, the island of Mayotte has been left with a distinctly Gallic character. In the port of Mamoudzou, the luxury cruising yachts hint at Mayotte's relative wealth compared with its African neighbours. But on the hills around Mamoudzou, a sprawling shanty town called Kawini provides a stark contrast to Mayotte's shimmering tourist facade. This is where most of the island's illegal immigrants end up. It's the first step on a journey they hope will take them to mainland France. But ironically, despite the risks they undertake, that is rarely achieved. And for most, this impoverished urban ghetto is as good as it gets.
De ce côté-là de la route, ce sont les entreprises de Mayotte. C'est donc le cœur économique. Et de l'autre côté, ce sont plutôt les quartiers de clandestins.
My guide to Mayotte is Eric Tranois, a long-time resident and one of the island's few independent journalists.
Et le soir, dans cette partie-là de la ville, le soir, ça peut devenir un peu chaud. Parce qu'il y a pas mal de clandestins qui trafiquent, qui essayent de faire leur vie, comme ils disent, et qui font différents trafics, principalement ce qu'on appelle ici le banguet, l'herbe.
Incredibly, almost half of Mayotte's population of 200,000 are deemed to be illegal immigrants. The maze of tin shacks here provides shelter to those trying to stay under the radar, but it also allows for third world squalor and disease.
Je pense que si les Français de métropole visitaient ce quartier-là, je pense qu'ils seraient très choqués de savoir qu'il y a des choses comme ça, des quartiers comme ça en France.
Half of the so-called illegals here are under 16 years old, and international relief agencies have stepped in to avert a brewing child health crisis. Because not only are these undocumented residents the French Republic's poorest, unlike those in mainland France, they're virtually cut off from government social welfare and healthcare. In the centre of the ghetto, the French aid agency Medecins du Monde treat children as a priority. Frightened of being arrested, parents are reluctant to visit the island's health clinics, according to Medecins du Monde's medical coordinator, Patrick Villedieux.
People don't go to doctor, or they go only when it's emergency case.
So you must be seeing an increase in emergency cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in the last month, we have more and more children coming really at the last moment, but we have to refer to hospital.
Patrick says the health crisis amongst the island's illegals is made worse by the heavy-handed tactics of the police.
They enter in the house in the day, they enter in the house in the night. The people can't sleep, afraid of everything. So the police pressure is 100% here. The
numbers of those arrested and expelled from Mayotte are staggering. More than 25,000 people in 2010, almost double the number of expulsions from the whole of mainland France.
You can imagine what is the environment here with police everywhere, with this truck with cage, metallic cage, where you can see people inside with children in their arms and so on. It's disgusting.
This is where the illegals are held before being deported. Mayotte's Immigration Detention Centre. I wasn't allowed to film here, but this secretly recorded video was released by Amnesty International. It reveals squalid conditions and overcrowding and has brought international condemnation. Patrick Villedieux says that despite a barrage of worldwide protest, nothing has changed.
We know that what is happening there is totally insane. There's a place for 60 people, and a few days ago there were 160 people with children. It's the shame of the France. Really, what is happening in Mayotte is the shame for France. Really shame.
Moi, je pense qu'il n'y a pas d'autre approche parce que, comme effectivement on l'avait remarqué, effectivement en Australie, pour les informations que j'avais, c'est assez strict, hein, effectivement. C'est le prix à payer pour réussir la départementalisation, parce que si...
The French government's chief representative in Mayotte, prefect Hubert Derache, is the man responsible for implementing the tough immigration measures.
L'année dernière, en 2009, nous avons fait près de 20 000 reconduites frontières. Et cette année, en 2010, on en a fait 26 000. Donc on a mis un effort très important, à la fois sur les interceptions en mer, qui correspondent en gros à 25% des reconduites frontières, donc vers Anjouan principalement, mais 75% des interpellations se font à terre, donc sur des gens qui sont déjà arrivés.
With such massive numbers of deportations, immigration policy has become the most divisive issue on this troubled island. And street protests like this one last month are designed to attract international attention. But it's the lives lost each year as a result of the dangerous ocean crossing to Mayotte that has angered these people. They send an empty coffin floating out to sea in a symbolic gesture to remember the up to 500, mostly women and children, who are lost at sea each year.
Plutôt que d'accuser la France, de dire c'est la faute de la France s'il y a des naufrages, c'est que font les autorités comoriennes pour empêcher cette migration, pour que cette population vienne à Mayotte. Pourquoi ils ne développent pas leur territoire pour permettre à ce que cette population puisse rester sur place?
Mayotte is one of 4 islands in the Comoros archipelago. They were all French colonies until the mid-70s, when 3 of the islands voted for independence, becoming the Union of the Comoros. The residents of Mayotte chose to remain a French territory, despite repeated UN condemnation, and in 1995, France introduced a compulsory visa system.
I mean, it's a very big scandal what is happening here. In terms of human rights, it is. Really.
For migrants' rights activists like Patricia Roux, the visa system has effectively divided peoples who have moved freely between these islands for centuries.
So this visa has really created something that's a very big social issue here. And I think if this visa was taken away, if you would change the system, you wouldn't have this problem.
Each week, hundreds of illegals are taken from the detention centre and deported back to the Comoros Islands. They're loaded onto this commercial ferry, which also carries regular visitors on the journey to the island of Anjouan, part of the Comoros Union. On board, there are Comorians all around me, but in a sign of the sensitivities involved, the ship's captain threatens to have me arrested if I speak to any of the deportees. I've come to Anjouan to see for myself the origins of Mayotte's immigration crisis. This island is the launch pad for tens of thousands of poor Comorians looking for a better life. The Union of the Comoros has suffered more than a dozen coups d'etats over the past 20 years. Amidst the grinding poverty and political instability, at least one industry has thrived.
Là, on se trouve dans la banlieue de Moutsamoudou. On est dans une usine qui fabrique des bateaux.
Eric shows me one of more than a dozen boat factories here that churn out the small fiberglass boats used for the dangerous 100-kilometre crossing to Mayotte.
Sur un bateau comme ça, on entre à 8 personnes. En fait, quand les gens font la traversée entre Anjouan et Mayotte, couramment, on a 25 personnes sur un bateau et ça oscille, disons, entre 25 et 40 personnes. Donc c'est évident qu'ils sont en dehors, largement en dehors des normes de sécurité minimum. C'est-à-dire qu'on prend vraiment un risque énorme parce qu'il y a le problème du poids, mais il y a aussi le problème de l'état de la mer. Nous avons quitté Moutsamoudou, la capitale d'Anjouan, qui se trouve à peu près au milieu de la côte nord. Et là maintenant, nous nous dirigeons vers la côte qui est orientée vers Mayotte, donc c'est la côte est.
As we make our way across Anjouan's mountains, a rudimentary roadblock gives another indication of how impoverished these islands are.
Ce qui se passe, c'est qu'on vient de nous arrêter. On vient de nous arrêter pour nous demander un petit peu de monnaie parce qu'ils sont en train de refaire la route. Et donc ils demandent notre contribution et à les aider un peu pour réparer la route. Donc on va leur donner quelques pièces.
Merci.
Voilà.
Merci toujours.
De rien.
Bon travail, gars.
Bon travail, c'est vous qui avez besoin de bon travail.
Emerging at a beach on the southern flank of Anjouan, we soon discover a small group of men discussing plans for their journey to Mayotte.
Il explique qu'il n'a pas d'autre choix, mais il sait pertinemment que c'est dangereux. Mais il essaie de mettre en péril sa vie parce que dans sa famille, il est pauvre. Il avait 15 ans quand il a pris la mer pour partir à Mayotte. Il sait que son père est handicapé, sa mère n'a rien, donc n'a que d'autres solutions que de prendre la mer pour tenter une autre aventure.
Comorian journalist Ahmed Abdullah relates one man's claim of abuse by the French authorities on Mayotte.
Il a été attrapé par la police, on l'a menotté. Au début, il a voulu résister, après on lui a menotté, on a mis les mains par derrière. C'est là où il est resté humilié par la police et les gens qui passaient, qui disaient à chaque fois, voilà l'Anjouanais qui était attrapé par la police.
Here, in one of Africa's poorest areas, dozens of small boats are tied up and stored, ready for the deep ocean crossing. It's an intractable problem, but for local journalists Eric and Ahmed, it's important to widen the debate about this ongoing humanitarian catastrophe.
Il n'y a pas que la France, hein, les Comoros ont aussi une part de responsabilité. Parce que bon, la France, sa responsabilité, c'est de les arrêter, enfin, de les tenter en fait. C'est un peu comme si on mettait une belle chose en vitrine. C'est sûr que celui qui a faim, il a envie de voler le pain qui est dans la vitrine, c'est une évidence. C'est une évidence.
Le problème est épineux, étant donné que les Comoriens considèrent le problème politique.
Ils ne voient que le problème politique. Ils ne voient que ça.
Même quand il y a des gens chaque jour qui meurent, on ne veut pas régler le problème de cette immigration clandestine, entre guillemets, parce qu'on suppose jusque-là, encore une fois, que les Comoriens ne trouvent pas que ce n'est pas clandestine.
Voilà.